The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media platforms push their own personal bias and agenda control to be exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The following is a pattern interruption of your regularly scheduled brainwashing program.
Hi, I'm Peter Duke, and Tracy Connors and I are joined today by Harry Bacharach, who's going to tell us all about secret knowledge of the Masons. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Well, Peter, thanks for having me, you guys. I can't tell you but the little bit that I know, and unfortunately, just the little bit that I know is a lot more than most people know, because most people don't know anything about Freemasons and what they do and how much influence they have on what happens in our society. And
I certainly didn't before I started digging into this stuff, and I wanted to introduce you to Tracy because, like Pat Moyse is kind of an expert on the occult and esoterica. Whenever I have a question about the Masons or Masonic stuff, you are right there to kind of answer the questions for me. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about how you came to know the things that you know?
And
Sure.
hang on, before we get into it, Harry, let's make sure anybody that wants to invite other people to join in this so that you don't have to take time to explain this stuff to people, get them in here now. So tweet out the link, share it however you can across social media. We would appreciate it.
Yes, I always want to be told the truth, whether it hurts my feelings or not. I know that I don't know. And so, you know, what I've read in these Masonic encyclopedias that I inherited. Well, I inherited one half and then went to half price books to get the other half. Is fascinating. These books were written in 1925, and it's kind of like it's 100 years ago, 95 years ago. It's let's say closer to the real truth, I guess, than anything that we have written today. Okay. And so my father was a Freemason, and his father was a Freemason, and his uncle was a Freemason. And these are Jewish, Reform Jews from, that moved to Cleveland. And they're big Zionists too, which is kind of an interesting thing. And so actually Peter and I were talking about how, Jews weren't really allowed into Freemasonry in the beginning of this thing, but it's just chock full of Hebrew and Kabbalah and Jewish words and ideas. I mean, even, from a mezuzah, which is, the thing they hang on the door, it's in this book, and it's like, well, that's interesting. Why is all that Judaism in there? So anyways, my father told me when I was 12, he was driving me to school, about how he stopped going to the lodge because some affiliation with the KKK, and he didn't feel comfortable being a Jew and being affiliated with Freemasonry. And so that was an interesting thing to say. And then he talked about somebody named Sabbatai Zvi, and that was kind of that was it. I mean, that was all he really ever kind of said about it, from what I recall. And then when he passed away, I found a box of his Masonic rings and cufflinks, and my brother had this one half of the Masonic Encyclopedia. And so then I was just like, wow, this is really fascinating. And so, yes, people think I'm crazy because I found a book that people don't know about this whole thing, and there's like, volumes and volumes and libraries upon libraries of esoteric research, magic, and so this Masonic law, this is where it kind of gets important and sort of relevant to me. The Masonic law usurps our constitutional law, and I could be wrong, but there are stories in here of soldiers being spared on the battlefield because of their mystic tie to the Brotherhood of Man. Okay, and that's important. And then and then you got judges, Thurgood Marshall, Freemason. Like a third of our presidents, politicians, entertainers, musicians. And as a musician, I wonder, boy, how come I never made it in the industry? I thought I was pretty okay and stuff, and sure, I'm fine. I was able to work for, 10 years making a living just playing music, which was pretty cool. But I never took the oath. And the oath is pretty severe. And the ritual by which you take that oath is severe. And it's I think it's a scary thing. Once you're there and you're blindfolded and you have a sword at your chest and they rough you up, and they, say that they're going to either slit your throat and rip your tongue out, or cut your organs out of your belly and cut you in two, or rip your heart out. Okay, those are the 3 different degrees, maybe not in that order. But the entered apprentice, the 1st degree, the fellow craft, the 2nd degree, the master mason, the 3rd degree, and then there's degrees above that, up, all the way to 33, and then beyond 33. Yeah, there you go, swords to the chest. So people, you can't get out of this initiation. People try, but they don't let you out. You take the oath. You take that oath, whether you like it or not. I don't. And so, and then under the word prayer in this book, it says, because Freemasonry is a religious institution, we open the lodge and close the lodge with prayer. So then you go, wait a second, I thought this was just a fraternity of men, a brotherhood of man, like John Legend says, right? Or not Legend, John Lennon. Close enough. And that song is just a total ode to Freemasonry. No heaven or hell. It's just, maybe I'm just guessing, but all of our, the musicians that we see, like, for instance, anybody on the Warner Brothers label, and Jack Warner was a huge Freemason, 33rd degree, you don't get the job unless you're a Freemason. That's where, like, the rubbing elbows and greasing palms in the lodge gets you places. Okay, so now it's a religion, and so there's an interesting video, and I can't quite recall the gal's name. Maybe I will in a minute, but she interviews her grandpa, who's a Mason, and she's like, so Grandpa, why would you join a religion, not knowing it's a religion, not knowing what really happens, the secret society, the secret rituals and initiations and oaths that you take. Why would you do it? And ultimately he says, well, if somebody does you dirty, you don't have to do them dirty back. You get a couple of the boys from the lodge to do them dirty for you. Knock their teeth out is what he said. Okay, so now we're talking like, oh, you guys are a gang. Okay, and so when I was helping out a political candidate here in town, and there's what's his face? Who's that one? Jay-Z or
Jay-Z? Yeah.
Look,
now I'm going to make full disclosure. The first thing I thought when I saw this picture was this could be Photoshop. So I'm just putting it out
could.
There.
Yeah.
So,
but I'll just tell you this. So that was my point. It was that when I was working for this political candidate in town, and met a young man, black guy, who very involved, and he was like, well, if I ever run for anything, I'm going to have to either join the Greek organization or the Freemasons. I'm like, damn. Like, I'm just getting hip to this, and this young guy already knows that it's a big thing in the black community. Prince Hall Freemasonry is a big thing, and it's, you know, it's important to have that dudes that got your back. Okay, so here's an interesting story: is that my great uncle, who was a Freemason, lived in Dallas, and he was in a flood. And when you're a master mason, you do the distress sign of a master mason, and you get,
right?
Yep, you get out of the flood. Yeah, they save your life. Yeah.
Do you see similarities between this and some other thing we've seen all over television for the last 5 or 6 years?
The hands up, don't shoot. Pretty close, yeah. It's pretty messed up. Like the whole, you know, I sent you the picture of Set, okay? Like Set, the sun god Set, and we're just, the reset. Regarding Set, the reset. It's like this whole, it's all that spellbound bullshit that really, I hope you guys don't mind some flagrant foul mouth.
No, that's all right. So your uncle?
Well, again, a master mason gets out of a flood because he's a, you know, and so did someone else die because of that? I don't know, but you know, here's a lot of musicians, black musicians who are Freemasons. Shaquille O'Neal, you know, he's a great example of someone who's literally just sold his soul. I mean, like, how many commercials can one guy be on before you go, okay, dude, you know, enough is enough.
We're jumping ahead here. I want to do a little scaffolding. So if people don't know anything, let's pretend that we're teaching these aliens, and we got a bunch of questions backing up too. But can you give me a brief overview of the Masons? My understanding is that nobody really knows where they originated from, when they began. There's all this lore that they have, but what's your
I mean, I can only tell you, like, what's in these books is sort of saying, well, this lodge started in this state and this time around 18 something or other, or the Grand Lodge of London was, I believe, like 1717. Okay. And so that means, but no, I think actually Peter would probably do a better job of some of that. You know, honestly, I can't, I would say, I mean, I can tell you what some of the lore is, where it goes to the Temple of Solomon and Hiram Abiff and these players, but
why don't you talk? Yeah, why don't you talk? I mean, my understanding is that the goal of the Freemasons is to rebuild the third Temple of Solomon. That's kind of like the biggest secret. Like when people ask what the motivation is for doing what they do, I thought it was interesting when you're talking too about how you're Jewish, how you're Jewish. You come from a Jewish family, and that your father had problems with the association between the Masons and the KKK, and that maps directly to what's the guy's name who had the statue pulled down?
Pike.
Albert Pike. Albert Pike supposedly was one of the founders of the KKK, right? And that.
See that, you know, I don't know. You know, I've heard he was also an abolitionist. So, you know, but I don't know. I honestly haven't read that much about Pike, to be honest with you. But I know he's a big deal in the Masonic lore, and so I do have friends who are Freemasons. And so, you know, do I think that those guys are running the world? No, probably not. No, they're like waiters and making pizzas and stuff, you know. But they're just, you know,
right. Well, like we've talked about before, I think that there's this. If you look at the pyramid on the back of the dollar bill, that what winds up happening is that you have to achieve a certain amount of excellence in something in order to get yourself to the top of that unfinished pyramid, and at that point, you get to the 33rd degree of whatever it is that you're good at, whether or not it's music or filmmaking or whatever it is. And then you get a tap on the shoulder, or you're invited to into the club. I know that in the book Operation Gladio, for example, one of the examples that the author gives of the of the mob, the mafia guys that were involved in organizing Operation Gladio, the drug running for Operation Gladio, is that they were invited into the Masonic temples in Italy and initiated into the 33rd degree, like as their original initiation. Like they were just brought in and said, okay, you're 33rd degree.
Yeah, well, sure, because then you can tell them if they say a word, we're going to kill you.
Right.
It's a control mechanism.
Men, right? In mob terms, you just go
it's
right.
The same notion. Look, it's the same notion. If you have 15, 20 guys pointing swords at you, saying they're going to kill you if you ever reveal these secrets, chances are you know it's gonna. It's why it's lived for so long underneath society. It's why it's on every corner of every small town in America, and whether they're active lodges or not, but they're there and they've been there. And yes, membership is waning, but I've seen 2 articles in the last 2 weeks, one from NPR saying we need Freemasons now more than ever.
Well, yeah, it's always interesting to me. You see, I don't know, I would have had the picture if I'd thought of it, but there's this famous poster of all of the different sheriff badges from around the United States that all have the Masonic symbolism on them. And then, and sheriff's
Masonic symbolism being,
they're Masonic organizations.
No, but I'm asking, he's got plenty of photos. You can pull them up to show what we're talking about. You don't have badges, but.
Okay, well, I can.
Well, we don't need no stinking badges.
No, we don't. And you lost the thread too. So they want to build the 3rd temple of Solomon. What does that accomplish?
I don't know.
Well, I can maybe just pretend a little bit. That well, they're pretty damn close to it right now. Apparently, there's this fight. The Jews want that temple built, okay, and the Muslims are not hip to that, right? And
maybe they're not. I mean, keep going, because I have some commentary about that.
Okay, well,
this is the narrative that's presented to us. Let's just go with that.
Yes.
So there's something called Noahide law, where we were talking about this. When the Messiah comes, the Gentiles, the Goyim, will become slaves for the Jews, because and they'll want to do it because that's, of course, what God wanted. We're the chosen people, right? Of course. And in this book, in this encyclopedia, Noahide law is the Freemasons refer themselves as Noahide. So that's kind of interesting, right? Noahide.
So what does it mean?
Well, let me try and find a little something here.
Here, while you're doing that, I found a picture of the sheriff's badges that I was talking about. So the Masonic symbolism is primarily the compass, the G, like we talked about last week on
the generative
principle, or God in some senses. So you've got the compass, you've got the G, and it's in the middle of all these sheriff badges. And you've got the beehive for Utah, and you've got, which I think is a Masonic thing. I think you sent me a beehive picture.
Yep.
And what does it mean to
that's the hive mind. That's having the king and then all the little worker bees for efficiency. But here's Noahide, the descendants of Noah, a term applied to Freemasons on the theory derived from the legend of the craft, that Noah was the father and founder of the Masonic system of theology, and hence the Freemasons claim to be his descendants, because in times past they preserved pure principles of his religion amid the corruptions of surrounding faiths. Whatever the hell that means.
So they think they're the direct descendants of Noah. So that would
and the Goyim will serve the Freemasons now. It's kind of like they have hijacked they've hijacked the.
Well, I think Tracy Twyman also talks about how there's a Merovingian idea that the Merovingians are direct descendants of Jesus, that Jesus and Mary copulated, and
Magdalene, not his mother.
Mary Magdalene, not his mother. Right? That's Sigmund Freud. That's a whole different conversation, right? And Shakespeare. Go ahead.
Can we bring in some of these questions that we've got backing up?
Sure. Yeah,
of course. By all means.
Yeah. All right. So let me get back here to the thing. All right. Do you know anything about this? Freemasons have a huge influence on running the prison systems. It seems that one of their ideals is to help make men better, and that has been a dismal failure. Well, I don't know. I mean, you see a lot of radicals coming out of prison, right? Think about how many revolutionaries the world over spent time in prison before taking control.
Right, Nelson Mandela, Adolf Hitler,
Hugo Chavez.
Here's an interesting thing that I always found about Donald Trump talking about. It was a perfect phone call. Perfect. It's a perfect phone call, right? So from the Masonic Encyclopedia, perfectionist, the name by which Weishaupt first designated the order which he founded in Bavaria, in which he subsequently changed for that of the Illuminati. So that's like... what was the Grateful Dead called before? They were the Grateful Dead.
They were called the Warlocks.
The Warlock, exactly. So the Illuminati was like the Warlocks of the Grateful Dead being the Illuminati. Anyway,
right.
So you're saying the Masons are the Illuminati?
They've been infiltrated.
Yes, we've set that up before about what Weishaupt did and how he built the Illuminati by kind of collecting people that were 33rd degree Masons and other people that were very high up in certain secret societies.
See, that's the thing, is that it goes beyond any religious affiliation. So you're going to have rabbis and Vatican priests. There's a neat interview with Fritz Springmeier. I'm going to just start dropping some names for people to start looking up if they want. William Milton Cooper, Bill Cooper.
Hang on a second. I just want to I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Everybody doesn't need to feel like they need to grab a pen or anything. I'll collect all this from you and we'll put it up on the show notes and on the site. So rattle them off.
Well, Ted Gunderson, Bill Cooper, Eustace Mullins, Fritz Springmeier, William Schnoebelen does a wonderfully long 3.5 hour long thing on the Prophecy Club, I believe is a YouTube channel. And he, he got really high up there in those degrees and started, in his 20s. And then once you start getting into the witchcraft and the wizardry, and magic, is when you start to realize, oh my God, Harry Potter is just fictionalizing reality, so people never would ever think that this is real. They fictionalize everything because then people will never suspect that it's real. And like in this book, Philosopher's Stone in this book. I could read you what it means, but that I'm pretty sure was
I want to know what it means because I've read 75 different definitions of what the Philosopher's Stone means.
Okay, well, let me take a look here. So again, our founding fathers.
Go ahead.
Our founding fathers.
One of the questions is, why was Freemasonry so popular at the time of the start of the United States?
Well, because we needed the ties to Britain. So all of your
lodge. Let me take a whack at that one. So
yeah, please.
The things that I've read indicate that the United States, North America, was seen as New Atlantis, or perhaps was Atlantis before, and that the idea that we thought the Earth was flat, and people were afraid of falling off of the edge. And then all of a sudden, they figured out that it was a sphere, and Columbus went over and discovered it, looking for India. Those are all really kind of cool stories. But the people who were pulling the strings behind the scenes actually understood that North America was there, and that they needed it to craft these narratives in order to be able to go and exploit the natural resources that they understood were in North America. And to that end, the creation of the colonies, and then the states, the United States, Mexico, Canada, all of those things were all, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes by the Masons in order to be able to kind of craft the direction. Basically, what they're interested in doing is focusing the power of human beings in order to move closer and closer to the goals that they have of reestablishing this new Atlantis. Now, I don't understand where the new Atlantis part dovetails with the rebuilding the third Temple of Solomon. I'm not sure about that, whether or not one is just resources in order to be able to accomplish the other. I know that in some of the Tracy Twyman books that I've read, there is a question about whether or not the first temple was actually in Mecca, at the site of is it the Kaaba? Where that black cube?
The black cube?
The black cube.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a Saturnian thing. And what's interesting is that if you look at a cube in on a isometric angle, it looks like a hexagon. It looks like the six-pointed star. If you connected the points of the star, it looks like the North Pole of Saturn. There's all kinds of interesting, weird stuff there. So, but jumping back to the question of North America, there are a lot of people who believe that the exploitation of North America and the creation of the United States was a Masonic project. And that's reflected in the streets, the design of the streets in Washington, D.C., which contain a pyramid, an upside-down pentagram, a compass, and a square, are all encoded into the streets of Washington, D.C., and the obelisk, which has got all kinds of occult symbolism associated with it, which is the Washington Monument, the White House, the position of all of the different monuments in Washington, D.C., all have specific Masonic and secret meanings. And when you understand that the amount of organization and infiltration that must be required in order to lay out the streets of the capital of the United States of America and to encode all of this symbolism into the monuments and the architecture and the layout of the city, it's hard to imagine that was not completely deliberate on purpose, and that this thing is being...
Of course, these were the builders. I mean, again, most of the founding fathers were Freemasons, period. I mean, from Ben Franklin, who apparently I have some relation to because I'm fat and bald and drinking philanderer. But, yes, and George Washington, our founding father, so on and so forth. Yes, and I think at least 13 or 15 presidents, Freemasons, Truman, and then you got the Skull and Bones, who which is again a secret society with. So here's the Kaaba, which you were just talking about, the name of the Holy Temple of Mecca, which is to the Mohammedans what the Temple of Solomon was to the Jews. It is certainly older, as Gibbon admits, so on and so forth. Christian era. Here's Kabbalah. You can't really see it. No, here's the
Tree of Life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and Kabbalah.
And that's in the Masonic thing?
Yes. Isn't that amazing? So, needless to say, I'm sure people have been doing this for a long time where they're Yeah. All
is this correct? Everybody with the one hand in their coat is a Freemason.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
one of
I
their
sent
symbols?
that picture I sent of
I have hands to show you. Here
Yeah,
we
and
go.
Peter, you have the overhead of DC, right, with all that stuff traced out. You had it earlier.
Yes, I mean I can find it quickly. But
here's the Philosopher's Stone. It was the doctrine of the alchemists that there was a certain mineral, the discovery of which was the object of their art, because being mixed with the baser metals, it would transmute these into gold.
So it's the magic to unlock the gold.
The mineral known only to adepts they called lapis philosophorum, or the Philosopher's Stone. So again,
now, do you think they're taking that literally? Because the more I study this stuff, the more I'm leaning towards that. All that alchemy stuff is all metaphorical. Where they're talking about gold, and we're thinking that they mean the gold bars that no longer back our dollar, but they're talking about something else.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Right.
I'll get back to you. I'm sure a lot of them would say that too. So what's interesting is that, a lot of Freemasons probably don't know a lot of this stuff. Not that I'm saying I do. And so they will not obviously reveal to other Freemasons. Here's an interesting tidbit, is that if Freemasons are talking about Freemasonry and a Cowan or non-Freemason comes up to them, they'll say, "It rains," which means to cease the Masonic conversation, because a profane or a Cowan, a non-Mason, is approaching. And if a woman is approaching who is not in the Eastern Star or whatever, they say, "It snows. It snows." Interesting. Just a little tidbit. But
Harry, do you know anything about this question here about the Mormon Church? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I have a feeling. Yes. Well, Joseph Smith was a Freemason, and So what's interesting is that it's a man-made religion. I get. I mean, all these different degrees where they're talking about, so and so entered this degree or inculcated this degree. Again, a man-made religion where they are. It's birth, life, or death and resurrection of man. Scarlet and the Beast. What was that that movie I sent you, Peter? It was like a French movie.
Right.
Something
it was right. It was made during there's a black and white. I can go find it. There's a
I'll find it and link it. Don't waste time.
Okay.
I sent it to Peter a couple months ago.
There was a movie that was sanctioned by the Nazis that was made in Vichy, France during World War II. That was a history of how the Masons created World War I believe, how they started World War I, and the guy who made it was executed at the end of World War II by the French for collaborating with the Nazis. But it does it appears to do a very accurate job of describing the initiation and compromise strategies that the Masons were using in France in order to control people.
And it's supposed to be based off of his true story. So he had been like a backbencher member of parliament, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yep.
And the Masons, he gives this impassioned speech at the beginning, and then the Masons are like, "Oh, we should get him into our brotherhood." Right. So they do show you a lot of the initiation stuff.
It was a neat movie.
Talking about.
It was a neat movie. But I think that's, I think there's some truth to that. And again, I guess I don't want to say that Masons are bad, because I don't know that. I really don't. I mean,
there's probably good ones and bad ones, just like any organization.
Well, and so that's like in the tree of life there, you got the good and the evil, and or what have you. And that's what Manly P. Hall is all about in his books about the duality of life and what have you. But and so then you get into the Aleister Crowley kind of thing, which is dark. and left hand or right hand path.
But is it?
I don't know. So what is this? What does it tell me? What does it say?
Well, this gets into a whole bunch of different things. He's just going through all the ancient traditions and kind
Is
of
that
accessible.
Hall?
I'm sorry?
Who's that, Hall or Crowley?
No, this is Crowley. I have
see.
Hall here.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to read them all. I figure they have something to say.
Yeah, well.
And I'm not going to get off by, so-and-so's evil.
Well, so I guess the one of the other main points is, besides it being a religion, is that it may be where this notion of a two-tier justice system comes from. My dad was a lawyer, and when he went into court, he would put on his little blue Masonic pinky ring to signify that he's a Freemason, and if the judge is a Freemason, he's going to get some preferential treatment for his client. And so that's kind of a big deal. And so when your federal judges are Freemasons and your politicians are Freemasons, Pence, I'm sorry, his little Masonic handshake with somebody where there's like a thing where some general or something handed him a paper, and I don't know if you saw the little clip, but that little handshake there looked pretty, Freemasonic to me. And
well, I mean, you could also, if you know what it looks like and there's pictures of it, I could fake it anywhere I wanted to. And you're telling me there's a ring? I'll just get a fake ring and wear that around,
Well, there could be consequences.
But maybe there could, maybe they'd whack you for doing that,
Well, yeah, I don't think they take kindly to it. I don't think if you did the distress sign of a Master Mason and then weren't a Master, So look at that one right next to it with Lady Gaga and the Queen. So I know two dudes in Lady Gaga's band, okay, from around here.
Can you get closer on that, Peter, so we can actually see the handshake?
Let me see.
There we go.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just seeing shit.
But jump back. Maybe you were saying, Harry, that you know two of the guys in Gaga's band.
Uh-huh. And her relationship with Marina Abramovich, frankly, is, it's disturbing. And her reach to the children is even more disturbing. Okay. And it's not, I'm not a religious guy. I really am not. And so when we talk about the Great Awakening, and I think you guys are on board with the Great Awakening, if I had to guess, and it's an amazing time that the symbolism will be their downfall, and again, this is just yeah. Yep. Kathy O'Brien, to me, I think Kathy O'Brien, to be honest with you, and I hate to say that,
Kathy O'Brien, what?
Right.
That perhaps she's not in control of her life.
That she's a mind-controlled slave. It's like a mind-control slave.
That she's still operating on the same level that she describes in her books.
No. I think he's saying Lady Gaga has been Kathy O'Brien.
Ah, I see. Yes.
I don't know. I feel for her. I don't. So with the picture of Paul Simon, for instance, on Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme, he's doing the hand in the shirt. Okay, is a pretty young guy, like early 20s, and that's where they make the break and they become unstoppably popular, right? And here he is in 2016 or whatever. I mean, way past time. Is he still singing for Hillary Clinton? Okay, and it's like,
so you're telling
damn,
me
you really got to pay your dues, man, all the way. He's
got his hand in his jacket in that.
Can you see it? It's
kind of hard to
behind.
see.
Yeah, it's behind that plant. They really are trying to.
And to answer to your question, Deborah, no, women can't be Masons. They have a separate order for women. It's called the Eastern Star.
Right, and there's the Daughters of Job, and there's the Demolay, which is for little boys or descendants of Noah.
Descendants of Noah or the Noahide. And Peter, that handshake, could you pull that up again easily?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, can you just leave those up for a little bit longer? Because sometimes I want to say stuff and then they're just gone. I feel like you guys took a bunch of Adderall or something before we got on.
Oh yeah, he and I both
can't even stay focused. And men are much worse gossips than women.
Are they?
Yes, 100%.
Oh, okay, I wouldn't doubt that. Okay, here we go. I wouldn't doubt that. So there's a PDF. All right, so here's an interesting thing.
Hang on a second. I want to talk about this handshake thing.
Yes, sure.
We were talking about this Noahide thing. So Tubal Khan, right? Do you remember that reference, Peter, from Twyman's books?
Not off the top of my head.
Where she was talking to Cain. And so Tubal Khan was one of his descendants, I believe.
Okay.
And then that follows down the line of thinking that Noah was one of his descendants. So this is Cain of Cain and Abel.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of the poem Kubla Khan and the fact that poem was in the movie Citizen Kane. Those are the things that shoot into my head when I see that.
Well, I can't watch movies now anymore. I never really watched movies too much, but we went to the drive-in over the summer, and Ferris Bueller was at the drive-in. So never actually been to the drive-in before in my life, which was pretty cool. But and so I'm going, there's got to be some Freemasonic something going on here. And so sure as shit, in the end of the parade, when he's singing, twist and shout, right? Twist and shout, right? And then he falls back into the arms of all the beautiful ladies and whatnot. Let me see if I can get you to see this.
We gotta go back.
It is.
Go back to the other. Get rid of the screen share, Peter.
Sorry.
No problem.
No, sorry, dude.
Okay.
Oh,
interesting. And so there he gets whacked in the head by the ruffians because he's not going to give away the password. Okay. And then they fall back into this sheet, and then he's raised as a master mason.
And so that's part of the initiation, right?
Correct.
And so Ferris Bueller gets initiated?
Yes.
I mean, he falls back into that thing just like it. And I was like, damn it anyways. There it is, if I had to guess.
So would you say that the Freemasons were at war with the Third Reich? No, wasn't it the Third Reich that put him up to making that movie to undermine them?
I think I think that's the question. He's saying, so does the World War I was by the Freemasons movie? So was that movie mean that the Nazis were against Freemasons? I think that now here's the thing that's interesting. When you start to kind of dig into Adolf Hitler and his genesis and all of that other stuff, it seems that there are a category of people that have been quote unquote made, right? That decide for whatever reason that they're going to turn against the people that made them. And I'm not sure whether or not Hitler falls into that category, but he certainly, from the outside, it certainly kind of seems like that's the case. I know that Heinrich Himmler had his own esoteric occult leanings, and like Harry was saying, there's a left hand, right hand kind of taxonomy. If you get into Kabbalah, there's a dark tree of life and a light tree of life, and they both have different kinds of characteristics to them. And there is this hermetic concept of polarity, which is that you can't have one without the other. You can't have good without evil. You
can't have hot without cold.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so to that end, maybe the Nazis were anti-Mason because they had their own flavor of occult, a hermetic tradition that they were into, and there
could have just been convenience because, as Deborah points out, the Holy Roman Empire was working with them as well, with Hitler, and so
Yeah, the Iron Cross is Masonic as well. So
and what was that? I'm sorry, Mark.
The Iron Cross, which is like the Malta.
Yeah, the Maltese cross.
Or the Red Cross. You know, I mean.
Right, but my understanding.
And even the swastika has got Eastern, Hindu kind of roots to it.
You can find a swastika in this book here. If I can, I will.
So there's a private chat. Sorry, go ahead, Harry.
No worries. So there is a PDF you can find nowadays online, and it's called Freemasonry Exposed by Captain William Morgan. Captain Morgan, okay?
Is he the pirate?
Nope. He was a Freemason that in 1826, he was a Freemason, and in 1826, he was murdered for revealing all the secrets of Freemasonry in this book. All the rituals, the penal signs, the grips, the do guards, the passwords, pass grips, altars, dress, how they're all dressed. And on 9/11 of 1826, correct, he was disappeared for publishing this book. But anyway, there's a PDF where you can just find it online and look through the whole thing and see all the initiation wording and what have you, who, what the worshipful master is, who the what are these other things here? Worshipful masters and
he's saying somebody is
junior wardens, treasurer, secretaries, senior deacons, senior warden, senior deacons, or junior deacons. Again, it's a lot.
So someone is asking the question, what is the hand symbol? So Trump is always doing this.
See, right? I don't ever see any of that in here, to be honest with you. I haven't. So if it
I'll tell you what I think when I see Trump doing this, I think of anchors. So people who are trained hypnotists one of the techniques that they use is to create anchors. So if you're trying to quit smoking or you're trying to lose weight, a lot of times what a hypnotist will do is that they'll associate a certain feeling or a certain action that they want you to take with a physical action that you can do. And the one that they use more than anything else is pressing your index finger to your thumb in order to connect that hypnotic idea that is in your psyche to some physical thing that you're doing. And by doing that, you can do it in plain sight. Nobody really knows what you're doing. You're actually coming into contact with your subconscious by doing that. So when I see Trump do that, I kind of think that's a self-hypnosis thing. But that's just a guess.
Well, yeah, I don't. Well, I can tell you this much: is that there's did I send you the picture inside Jared Kushner's home office where he's got a Masonic apron hanging on the chair? I didn't send it to you in this batch, but
I think maybe you sent it to me before, so I'll go look for it while you're talking.
And I'm trying to read this one thing here.
It doesn't make a good broadcast.
Yeah.
We'll get
I
back
know.
to answering this question. I think I have an answer for it.
Go ahead. Do it.
They're interested in those megalithic structures because those structures were originally built on ley lines, right? Which are lines that crisscross the earth and seem to be concentrations of magnetic forces. Is that the correct way to explain those? Mm-hmm. And so the thinking is that those structures were built to harness that energy. And that's why they'd be interested in them, no matter what continent they're found on.
I almost want to and I shouldn't, but change gears in a way.
We've been jumping all over the place. I try to keep this in a lane so that people that have no idea what we're talking about can keep up. And I feel like go for it, Harry. Go wherever you want to go.
Okay, well, it's about throwing everything that we know out the Overton window and getting the American people up to speed on the false history that we've been taught Okay, and when you were talking about the ley lines and the sacrifice, I was watching something on Twitter just the other day. It was like this Googler thing following the ley lines and these satanic ley lines where here's Sandy Hook and then here's like some other pyramid, and it's just a direct line of all these crazy places. You're just like, oh my, there might be some significance to this. Who knows? But anyways, that's beyond what I'm accustomed to even dealing with. But yes. Ted Gunderson, Bill Cooper, Eustace Mullins is an amazing resource if you can even find them. How come we don't know about Eustace Mullins? How come we're not taught in school about Freemasonry when the Freemasons run the whole thing? Don't you think they'd want us to know about them? No, why? So why? And so, but now we know JFK murdered by James File Sutton, right? Would you say that, Peter, that you watched that video? Somebody please get the BitChute and go watch James File Sutton. Not you guys, but listeners. Watch the video where James File Sutton says, I was the grassy knoll shooter. I shot him with a Remington fireball with a mercury tip bullet. I took a bite out of the thing and put it on the grassy knoll fence, and somebody found it. It completely corroborates, and the FBI has known about him since 1964. Why is the FBI still in existence? I don't know. Am I allowed to say that kind of thing on the air? And
we'll find out. If we lose our YouTube channel, I'm coming for you, Harry.
Okay.
You can do this mess on your own channel. No, we're backed up all over the place. If they want to shut us up, they'll shut us up.
Well,
we're getting a field here. I mean, I didn't realize we're going to pivot into, we think we found the real shooter kind of stuff. It's like, I haven't had any chance to vet that. So if we can time out.
Okay, well,
we got a whole bunch of questions about what we're supposed to be originally talking about.
Okay, let's go back to the questions.
Okay,
sure. Well, I guess let's do a consensus instead of a census. Let's have a consensus between the three of us. Okay, 9/11 isn't what the government said. Agreed.
9/11 is not what was presented.
Correct. Yes. I agree.
Okay. JFK.
It's losing our YouTube channel today. Happening or no?
What? I'm sorry, what happened?
She's losing our YouTube channel today.
Are we going to get our YouTube channel yanked for this?
Well, I don't know. Should we turn into Zionism real quick and talk about that?
I'm going to throw you out of the studio in about 30 seconds. I'm not joking.
Okay.
She's not joking.
Not at all. I'm like, these are places I'm willing to go when we're behind a paywall.
Mm-hmm. I forget we're on YouTube.
I appreciate that, but yeah.
I was being facetious
of our show.
I was being facetious.
I'm sorry?
I was being facetious.
Here's the deal. The way that we have to frame things because of YouTube is that we have to frame things as questions, right? And as soon as we cross from the and to be quite honest with you, and I'm not being squirrely, I have questions about all of these things, and being fearless about asking the questions is something that we hold in high regard. But to the extent, now I watched the James File video. I watched it from beginning to end. Like Kathy O'Brien, I want to believe him. My confirmation bias leads me into the direction that what they're saying is directionally true. It's correct. It's factually accurate. But I don't have any evidence beyond the sincerity of their testimony that substantiates my belief in them. Right. So I want to believe Kathy O'Brien. I've said this a dozen times. I want to, even though her story is the most horrific story I've ever read, I want to believe James File, even though it is the testimony of somebody who's clearly a psychopath. Because to be so glib about assassinating the president of the United States of America requires a certain disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
And so to the extent that all of these, I want to believe all of these things, I do recognize that they are confirming my bias. I do recognize that they are fitting into a worldview that I want to believe is true. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. on the 6th. The president says it's going to be a wild time. I don't know what that means. I'm going to go find out. Okay. And hopefully there's not a Bio-Madon Plaza situation or something like that winds up happening while I'm there. But I've lived a good life. I'm going to take a camera. I'll see what happens. And it may be it's going to be an alpha or omega moment. I think it's either going to be the greatest moment in history, or it's going to be like one of the most depressing anticlimaxes ever. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I will go. I will go experience that. I will be there in real time, and I will see what's going on. And so but the reason I started wandering down that rabbit hole is just because I have no idea what it's going to be a wild time means by the president. I don't know I don't know for sure that Kathy O'Brien is correct. I want her to be. I don't know for sure that James File is correct. It would certainly answer a lot of questions for me if that was true. So have I beat this up enough, Tracy?
I suppose so. I just want to jump in and say I think Kathy O'Brien is full of it.
Okay. Totally.
Like, it's a cool story. I don't want it to be true.
Right.
I think something like that could be going on. I just don't believe that they would allow someone to run around and share those secrets if they were real. And I know the pushback would be, well, she seems so crazy that it's easy to dismiss her. Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's certainly unbelievable stories. But again,
like there's so much stuff in these books that we're talking about that you can actually point to and try to decipher and dissect. That's so much more interesting to me.
Well, Peter and I talked about the Ted Gunderson interviews with Paul Bonacci, where he's literally going through the programming altars to have him find the different places in his brain where these different things are stored. So it's not.
So Paul Bonacci is who?
Well, he was a. Let's see.
Well, let me start with Ted Gunderson. So Ted Gunderson was an FBI, a senior FBI agent who ran the Los Angeles division at the same time that the McMartin preschool thing happened. And Ted Gunderson, that was
a big scandal.
That was a big scandal where children were interviewed by psychologists, and there was a controversy about whether or not the children were being secreted away from the school during the daytime and have untoward things done to them. So there was a trial. The school was leveled. It was reported in the news that there were no underground tunnels or anything found underneath the school, and that story was BS. And after years of trials, the McMartins, who were the family that owned the school, were found not guilty. Ted Gunderson, who was, like I said, that for 2 years he was the head of the Los Angeles division of the FBI, believed that the story was true. He believed that they did find evidence and that the news media had covered that up. And I think that he was so disgusted that he resigned from the FBI, and he made the rest of his career in trying to unearth these secret things. A lot of the journeys that Ted Gunderson went on led him in the same direction that you and I are going in now, Tracy, which is that he uncovered a lot of the secret society stuff. He uncovered a lot of the methods and assets that were being used in order to kind of facilitate all of this stuff. And one of the things that he worked on, one of the cases that he worked on, was the Franklin scandal. And I think that Paul Bonacci was one of the children that was taken out of Boys Town that was subjected to the same type of mind control stuff that Kathy O'Brien talks about in Transformation of America. And one of the things that she talks about is the idea that that by using terror and hypnosis, that you can create dissociative personalities within a person that are referred to technically as alters. and that in the same human being, you can have multiple personalities, and the different personalities actually are task-based. So you can have a sex slave tasked person alter. You could have a memorization tasked alter. And one of the reasons I tweeted out to Patrick Byrne tweeted out a video of himself memorizing 52 cards in a deck this morning. I watched the video, and the first thing that I thought of when I saw it was one of the things that Kathy O'Brien talks about in her book is that people can be tortured into having photographic memories, meaning what they do is that they ask you to memorize something, and if you don't memorize it, they torture you, or they subject you to some kind of radical abuse, like doing something untoward to somebody else. And then by going through this process, you can actually develop a highly accurate photographic memory. So when I was watching Patrick Byrne, there's something off about Patrick Byrne. I don't know what it is, but when he posted that video of him memorizing 52 cards, my immediate question in my head was, is that an alter, right? Is that a personality trait of someone who has gone under some kind of MK Ultra mind control, or is that a parlor trick? That was my legitimate question. I don't know the answer to the question, but it is what comes to mind when I see that. So you were talking about Paul Bonacci.
Paul Bonacci, Ted Gunderson, Johnny Gosch.
He was another kid, right?
Well, Paul Bonacci was able to corroborate him knowing about Johnny Gosch being, I think it was the Finders, right? Is that sort of
right? And Johnny Gosch was a paper boy who got kidnapped, and then he turned up later in life. It's assumed that he turned up later in life as like a congressional aide or an assistant to a congressman or something like that,
or a male prostitute or escort, or
right,
and also had a press pass. So he, Johnny Gosch supposedly, again allegedly, came back as Jeff Guckert and Jeff Gannon, or I believe those are the two names that he came out. Anyway, so yes, the government. Well, and actually, James File Sutton claims to have been a test tube baby super soldier.
Right.
Also, so and so when you talk about his psychopathy, if that's the right word, then yes, he was raised to be a killer, and so that it was just a job for him,
Right, and Kathy O'Brien refers to that alter type as a delta.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
interesting. Well, anyway, so okay. So I guess that the consensus 2020 game is over because we can't really go all that deep. So
well, no.
I mean,
we can agree. We can agree on the questions that we want to ask.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So getting back to Ted Gunderson, Ted Gunderson's got a great resume. Like, for anybody to assume that somebody gets to a certain level in the FBI that they're a lunatic and they're out of their minds. That's a difficult stretch for me.
Is it? Why? J. Edgar Hoover ran that agency until he died in his 70s. Come on, and he was out of his mind.
Also a Freemason too.
Was he out of his,
Can we get back to that? We've got all these images that I want to look at and kind of.
Yeah, well, let's look at some images. If you bring them up, we can talk about them.
Okay, drive, Tracy. Tell me what you want.
No, it's too late. It's like it's gone.
Well, yes.
Somebody said earlier that they agree with me about Byrne. Agree with what?
Agree with you that he's off.
Okay. Right.
You gotta. Yeah. This is why I try to get the comments in real time, but I don't want to interrupt the flow because I know you've got them on the one screen and then they throw you off. And
it's okay.
Like I want to be interactive with everybody. Like Deborah pointed out a long time ago, and I wanted to throw it up there about the pyramids, and they're not. We're told that they're tombs, and they're not. There was never a king buried in there, and now I can't even find the damn thing. But I agree, she's right.
There's a guy, Justin Bright or something like that, who is on a YouTube channel, and he just came back and posted like a 45-minute video of him running through the pyramids of Giza with a camera recently, and it was pretty cool. I mean, he's a caricature of a guy, but it was a neat to see because I've never been. So
yeah, bright insight.
You know.
Bright Insight is his YouTube channel.
Yes, it was right. Not bad. So, yes, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, my limited knowledge of Freemasonry.
Well, what do you know about Freemasonry in the early Republic days? Like you mentioned the Prince Hall Masons, and that's just something that came onto my radar recently, and we've kind of delved into it, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper in that if you have the ability to do so.
Prince Hall Masons, I think like 1800s. And it's a big thing. I know kids I went to high school with who, you know, black folks who are joined the Freemasons.
But it was a branch that was developed specifically for Black Americans, right? So
correct.
Prince Hall is the founder of that Masonic order, and he was from Barbados.
Oh, is that the case?
Or one of the?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, then
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's all right.
I mean, I have. Let's see here. I have it in here somewhere. But you don't want to watch me look for it because I can't see too well right now. So
we don't. And if you can't answer a question directly, just
no, I really don't know.
Okay.
I just know that it is a big deal. And so when I was during the elections, the line was wrapped around blocks and blocks, and a lot of black folks in their Shriner jackets, the ladies with their Eastern Star rings. Okay.
And the Shriners are related to the Masons?
Yes. So once you become a 33rd degree, so you can't, the Masons do not ask you. They don't recruit. You have to ask one to be one is their slogans. And so, yes, you have, and then you'll put in an application, and then they'll send some guys to your house to ask you questions and your family questions and get an idea for who you are. Okay. And then they will they'll vote, and that's where the term blackballing comes from. And so they have a box that you stick your hand into, and you can feel whether it's a cube or a ball. And I believe it's the cube is a good and the black ball is no, and it has to be unanimous. And then if they agree to have you in, then yes, they'll send the guys to the house, and then you'll come in and be initiated, and then again entered apprentice.
And and when they initiate you, they put a sword to your throat, and they tell you that if you ever
or to your chest, anyways,
to your
right?
Chest, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly scary experience to the point that apparently one guy passed out, you know, and they were like worried that they were not going to be able to revive him, right? You know, and that's a story from this 1826 publication. So, you know, I don't know how physically violent or anything like that, but certainly threatening. You know, needless to say, taking a pledge or an oath to the Constitution is not as scary. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
And so, again, does the Masonic oath usurp does Masonic law usurp constitutional law? And since it's older, you would think, yes, people are going to, you know. I don't know.
Sure. Harry, do you have an answer to this question? Is there a credible person that's infiltrated the Masons and lived to tell about it, I suppose, would be the rest of that?
Well, William Schnoebelen certainly is one, and he's come out and told most, you know. There's a guy on YouTube that goes through all the penal signs and do-guards of Freemasonry. I can't remember what his name is or whether they're still up, but he just does a quick thing, you know, this is and then how you put your hands on the Bible when you take your oath,
Well, what's this?
That's cutting your throat and ripping your tongue out. If you,
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a penal sign to revealing the oath, and a do guard, which is the way you stand and hold your arms and hands, whether you're using a 45-degree angle with your feet. I don't know if I sent you the ones with the different things, but
you did. I'll pull it up. Keep talking.
So, do you know who Bill Hicks is at all? He was a comedian from the,
Yes.
And some people say that he's Alex Jones.
Of course.
Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
And so this picture of Bill Hicks doing the, I think it's the do guard of the entered apprentice, almost leads me to believe more so that he might be. I don't know why, but
I think I put the wrong one up here.
That's all good.
Oh, that one had the feet at the 45-degree angle, or the 90.
And so again, if you're standing in a courtroom in front of a judge who is a Freemason, and you do this with your feet or your hands, are you going to get preferential treatment? My guess is yes. And I'm guessing that everybody in Washington, D.C. is on the level, so to speak. And so their oath is to Freemasonry.
Right, and that's
the Constitution is frivolous.
And that's a question, right? Are you on the level?
Right.
That,
Yep.
And a lot of people think, oh, does that mean I'm level? And it's like, no, that means, are you part of the club?
Yeah, or are you on the square?
Right. By the eye and on the square.
Mm-hmm. Right. So those are. I mean, there's so many terms that come from Freemasonry that it's actually rather remarkable. Just from being blackballed to the term eavesdropping is if you hear a Masonic conversation you're not supposed to hear, they'll put you underneath a gutter ultimately, or an eave, until the water drips down the back of your shirt into your socks, and that is where the term eavesdropping comes from.
Interesting.
Just and I think little things.
Yeah, and to Sherry, people of course stand and marry in different ways when they're nervous. We're just saying this is one way to signal.
Mm-hmm. It's like a gang sign, ultimately. It's like the oldest gang sign known to man. Yeah. Fascinating times. The whole symbolism will be their downfall thing took on a whole new meaning once you start to recognize what you're looking for. And so then every album cover has it, something. And, most of your authors, likely from Mark Twain and Mozart, from Duke Ellington to Nat King Cole to Count Basie to Milt Jackson, the black jazz community, Freemasons. I would guess, Ashton Kutcher, right? Why? Who cares? Well, again, and I've seen his ex-wife kissing a 12-year-old. Okay, you ever seen that video?
No. Are you talking about Demi Moore?
Yes, kissing the 12-year-old.
No.
Yeah, it's not good, and so. Well, to me, keeping secrets is, people keep secrets because they're bad things, typically. And I know that this religious notion, you got to keep things secret, but I don't get that. And to me, the initiation process of going through these different levels is a pyramid scheme, literally. And it's also a way to call people with morals, because, when they're asking you these questions in your initiation, well, depending on how you answer, might determine on how far you get up the ladder, Jacob's ladder, right? And so,
Jacob's ladder. You want to talk about that?
I don't know anything about it, to be perfectly honest with you. You can.
Okay, I don't. I don't.
Okay. No, I don't really. I just know actually that ladder that that I sent you with the guy doing the hidden hand of the second veil there has that ladder, and it's the different degrees of. I think that might be the York Rite. So there's two. Beside the Prince Hall Masons, there's the York Rite and the Scottish Rite. And from what I understand, the York Rite is more the Christian-oriented rites or Freemason path, and then the Scottish Rite as more of the Hebrew Jewish thing. But again, I don't know because
My understanding is their only requirement is that you believe in a God.
Correct. Well, there's an interesting video on YouTube where there's the Shriner talking about how he's Lucifer. And so also the Shriners have to get that was my point when I was talking about you have to be one to be one you have to ask one. But when you want to get to become a Shriner, I think they ask you because you've gotten to a certain level. And so the Shriners the guys with the fez hats and driving around in little cars and with the hospitals,
that they
children's hospitals, and the little bear. I'm like, okay, I don't know, guys.
The little bear, what is that?
On the Shriner Hospital, they got the little bear.
Does it have any significance?
Not anything that I would talk about on the channel because probably get shut down. I don't know. I don't like it. Whatever it is, it's just. And I'm sure they're doing good things for kids and stuff, but I don't. Again, it's keeping secrets to me is not in the best interest of. It's just like JFK said, right? Mark Twain was a Mason. He sure was, as was Mozart and Voltaire and Harry Houdini, and the list is really pretty incredible if you bring it up. But it's like anybody you've ever heard of, ultimately, it's because they were Freemason. And so actually, this is an interesting little tidbit in the beginning of the encyclopedia. There was a little insert, and it says, "Now, my brother, these are only a few of the many things that are answered within the covers of the Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, New Revised Edition, in 2 volumes. And we can truthfully say that if you are still as you were in the beginning in search of light, as you said you were, you can here obtain it without any laborious study. If you use the encyclopedia as you should, your efforts will be repaid 1,000,000-fold, both with pleasure and profit." Does that sound like an Amway scheme to you? I'm just saying.
Yeah. Peter, that looks Photoshopped to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which. I can't really see what you're looking at.
Steve Wozniak picture that you sent.
The light on him doesn't match the background.
Yep.
Well, Henry Ford was a Freemason, okay, and actually there's a great little few-second video of Donald Trump when he was talking at the Ford plant, and he says, "Well, Henry Ford was good bloodlines, if you believe in that kind of thing," he says. Henry Ford, good blood. And then he laughs in this very genuine laugh, and I'm like, holy shit, he's hip. He knows what, obviously he knows what's going on. But again, the fact that Jared Kushner has that Masonic apron in his study, and I don't know if it's his or his dad's or his grandfather's or why it's out. But yes. So needless to say, to answer the question, yes, Freemasons run the world. Ta-da!
Do you have anything to add to this, Harry?
It looks as if he's been taken over by cultural Marxists, and Freemason stuff has been pushed out, or are Marxists somehow mixed up in it? Yes. So let me find my.
Well, I'll take a stab at that while you're looking.
Yes, please.
Okay, I believe that there are different social engineering programs that are used in order to move society into the direction that they want to go in based on these alchemical processes. And when I say alchemical, I mean they need to break something down in order to rebuild it. So you've got philosophies out there like creative destruction, right, which seem to be just kind of the packaging of or the marketing, as it were, for these types of processes. So to that end, cultural Marxists. I mean, my jaded, one-sided, biased opinion is that they looked at John Locke. They went with life, liberty. Locke said life, liberty, and property. They came up with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a compromise for the foundation of the United States of America, because in an undeveloped continent, in order to get everybody to go out and manipulate nature in order to reap as many of the natural resources as possible, rape, some people might say, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is a good motivation for a population. That said, Europe was already developed. It had already been civilized. And to that end, they really wanted to start pushing the socialist agenda. And so they changed the branding from life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in North America to liberty, fraternity,
equality,
liberty, equality, fraternity, which wound up becoming the foundation of socialism, that got further developed by Karl Marx, and then using the Frankfurt Institute in order to be able to. And Frankfurt, I think, is a key city in all of this stuff too. That they came up with the social, the cultural Marxism approach in order to go back to North America and to use that alchemical process in order to move North America more in line with what they were doing in Europe.
I don't agree with the last part of that.
You don't have to. Tell me why.
No, my take on that is it comes from, there's a great documentary called Armageddon, I think is what it's called. It's World War I in color.
Okay.
And they show you it's pretty phenomenal to watch it, because they have video the day that Franz Ferdinand was assassinated. They have footage. So there's tons of footage that you would never have expected to exist of World War I. And one of the things, I can't remember this guy's name, but there was a Marxist agitator in Paris. So when war breaks out, he's in the streets being like, workers of the world, unite, because this is what the Marxists thought would happen. That all the underclasses would throw off the shackles of at the time, it was all monarchy still in Europe. They would cast out the monarchs and be done with the whole thing, and they would unite in world communism. But what they found out was, no, these people have some affinity to their nation. So we must destroy that. It was the nationalism that kept everybody fighting for their home country instead of turning on their rulers. So they thought, how do we do that? And we do that by undermining culture and making people hate their countries. And here we are a little bit over 100 years later, and it's been pretty damn successful.
Right. And H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell both talk, H.G. Wells in The New World Order and Bertrand Russell in The Impact of Science on Society, both talk about how the biggest impediments to globalism are nationalism and religion, because they're both ideological and they are, people latch onto them, and it's hard to disassociate them from those belief systems.
Here's I'm looking through the school of Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is a big deal in obviously geometry and the Masonic thing. That's a big what have you. But there's the one mention where it says the mode of living in the school of Crotona was like that of the modern communists. The brethren, about 600 in number, with their wives and children, resided in one large building. Every morning, the business and duties. So if they put a lot of faith in Pythagoras, and now they're saying, it's like modern communists. Okay, well, I don't know what that means. If that's
right. Well, I haven't haven't dug deep on this yet, but I know that Karl Marx was a reporter who covered the American Civil War as part of his beat. I'm not sure if he was working for the New York Times or not. Something makes me think that he was. Or he was.
I feel like that would be everywhere.
He was working for maybe it was the London Times. He was working for a major outlet.
That would make more sense.
I would love to have Professor Hamamoto in this mix.
I would too, but my problem with the professor is every time I see him, he doesn't have a good microphone, and so it's almost impossible to hear him.
Well, you get the $13. That's $13.
Right.
Well,
right.
I'll send him one. I'll do it.
But
sure.
I was watching. He was on with George and John, and I couldn't hear anything that he was saying, and I'm sure it was interesting.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. What were a couple other little things in these damn encyclopedias that
well, I want to see if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah, please.
Looking around. I love Professor Hamamoto. But to Tracy's point, you and I were talking yesterday or a couple of days ago when we cooked up your coming on our show, and I said to you that audio is it's actually more important than picture, because a lot of people just put this on and they're just listening to it while they're cleaning their house and stuff. But
right. Oh, and to that point, Peter, we should let everybody know that we found a fun new app to play
around. Talk about that, Tracy.
To our phone calls. So it's called Stereo, and I would kind of explain it as interactive AM talk radio. So you can tune in and listen to a phone call between Peter and I, or Peter and Harry, or myself and Pat, and just listen to us. But you can send us voice messages that we can play during the conversations. So we might do some after show stuff over on Stereo. I would recommend downloading the app. It's relatively new. And as far as I can tell, it seems to be a safe space for free speech. And the reason I say that is because I found it through Ari Shafir, who's a comedian that's done some pretty outrageous stuff. The entire Gas Digital Network, which is Louis J. Gomez, Big J. Okerson, Dave Smith, Michael Malice, all those guys cross the line routinely, and their entire network is promoting it. So they're doing paid promotion for it, which makes me think somebody pretty based started that app. So I would recommend everybody get on there and start yapping, because you can actually earn money by building a following over there, which is a nice reward too.
They're going to give $100,000 to the first person that gets to 100,000 followers. So,
but they're giving away smaller. Did you see that? If you go into the leaderboards, right now, people with 150 followers are making a couple $100 over there. So it's called Stereo. I think I put the links up. If you go to therealityos.com, I've added it to the top. It says Stereo, the drop down for me and Peter. We're both we always use the same branding for ourselves. So I'm always at Tracy L. Connors on whatever platform, and Peter's always at Peter Duke Photo.
I guess I should mention that Harry Bacharach, all one word, is my YouTube channel. Louis M. Cowan is my Twitter. I don't really care about Twitter. I'm so algorithmically challenged over there that it's just like pissing in the wind. It's just so pointless. Ultimately,
Twitter's become that over the years. That's why I'm excited when there's a new app that comes along that's not totally been screwed up by AI.
Right. And the Facebook is brutal. It's just we're in a war. Information war is no joke.
It isn't. And what's great about Stereo is you don't have to brush your teeth or wash your hair to do it, because what happens is that you join and it's got a little avatar and the lips move. Yeah. So it's a little freaky. Yeah,
you build your own little cartoon avatar. I was giving Pat crap. I was like, you made yourself look Puerto Rican. I don't know what you're doing.
Well, it's interesting, because when I went in there, I looked Puerto Rican too, because it's definitely skewed to you have to swipe all the way over to the right,
to pasty white
if you're pasty white to find your skin color on there. So they're definitely like not targeting the sun challenged Caucasians.
No.
So
no. And it seems to be a lot of people talking about spirituality stuff, and then a lot of Trump supporting talk going on.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that. And then again, the Beavis and Butthead of it all is kind of funny too. It's there was a guy who was asking us some questions on Tracy and I tried it. If you go and you look, and basically if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see all the conversations that somebody's had before. I've had 2 because I was experimenting with it yesterday and I accidentally started a conversation with somebody and I didn't realize that was going to happen.
Yeah, it has almost a chat roulette option where you can just be like, I want to talk to anybody. Just throw someone at me.
Right. And it just puts you together with somebody. And it's like,
you could go there and rain red pills all day if you wanted to, Harry.
Right. Yep. You could create a lot of controversy, Harry, if you went there.
Well, that's what I like to do.
So I help it.
See how long it takes you to get thrown off.
Yeah, well, that's how you know whether it's a real platform or not.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean, again, you could probably just do what I do on Twitter. My tweets auto delete after 2 weeks because I just figured that's probably a good insurance policy. Facebook is worthless. Yes. Facebook, yeah.
Rumble's easy, except they don't have live streaming just yet, and it's easy-ish. You still have to go through the process of uploading.
And you can't embed easily on Rumble. Rumble's got like a 1997 scheme for taking a video and embedding it in a website. It's not great.
They're working on it. They announced that they're going to do live streaming, and Gab Video went live this week, Peter.
Okay.
Their problem is I think they limit it to 2 gigs, so I have to go cut all of our episodes in half and upload them as parts.
Well, you could just compress the crap out of them and make them like 240 by 320.
You can do that.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting where you tell me what you want me to do, and I'll go do it.
All right.
Thanks, guys. It's nice to see some love at the bottom there, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
So, Harry, are you going to go to Washington on the 6th for Donald Trump's wild time?
If I can get a pair of rollerblades by then, yeah.
You're going to rollerblade around DC in January?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the only way to do it. And with a hockey stick so I could beat people if need be.
Have you seen the, what are those things called? They're not hoverboards, but they're similar to that concept.
The one wheel things?
Yes. The unicycles, that's what they're called, electric unicycles. But you don't have a seat on it. Your feet just go on either side of the wheel and you lean forward to go forward and lean backwards to go backwards. They're pretty cool. And they just, the feet snap up and they have a handle on it. You just take it where you're going. It's electric. I think they go 30 to 40 miles an hour.
The guy who did the stamp on my 4Runner has one of those. His Instagram handle is Beyond Raps. And he's got lots of videos of himself, going back and forth to work. I think he takes it to work and he videotapes himself going. He streams himself going to work.
One of the engineers that I work with has one, and he used it to troll every Biden parade in our town with his big Trump flag.
Well,
so we stream over on Twitch.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I'm just shouting out because somebody said live streaming on Twitch is great. And so
I don't want to again change the subject, but this mask mandate thing, I'm trying to find a way that we can claim as a civil rights violation that we just don't need to wear masks, and it should be covered under the civil rights movement or civil rights acts.
Well, it's a First Amendment violation. It's my free expression. But I think you don't even need to play that game. Why even have a justification? Just say no.
Well, I had the cops called on me going to the grocery store the other day.
Oh, yeah, tell that story.
Are you serious?
Well, yeah.
You're in Ohio?
Yep, in Cleveland. And so, it was about 20 to 9. The store is about to close anyways. Nobody in there. Huge store. And the security guard says, you got to have a mask. I said, no, I'm not wearing a mask, And she says, you wear a mask or I'm going to call the cops. I said, call the cops. I just started shopping. It was like a supermarket sweep. I just tried to get everything in the grocery cart before the cops got there, which I managed to do. And then the 3 cops show up and they go, I said, well, what's up, guys? I'm not breaking any laws here. Well, I said, can I just talk to the manager? We talked to the manager. He wants you to buy your stuff, check out and leave. I said, yeah, that's what I wanted to do too. Thanks. So I am trying to find MAGA lawyers that would sue the governor and the Board of Health for this unconstitutional mask mandate. And there's plenty of different avenues. And I actually talked to this guy who's apparently a CNN legal analyst and contributor from around here. And, I was saying, well, it's a religious right to not have to wear this thing, and
you can just say you have COPD.
Well, that's the thing is so one time I went in the store and a different security guard, same store, said, you need a mask. I said, no, I don't. I have a health condition. He said, well, what is it? I said, you can't ask me that, dude. You can't do that. And so I just went on my way, and that was the end of that, but the other time, so look, I said, I could make it about race because they're black security guards. I'm a white guy. Don't care about that. That's not the issue at hand. That's bullshit, but yes, a doctor or, the governor sure as shit can't tell you what to do with your face, and a doctor can tell you to wear a mask or not, but you don't have to listen to them, and that's your right there, And so, needless to say, I think that MAGA and QAnon folks should be a protected class, and I think that when the Civil Rights Act was written, and race and religion and all those things in the 50s or 60s when it was written were real issues. And now I think the pendulum has shifted so far, and I hate to say this because I really got laughed at really hard last night, but patriots need to be a protected class now. It's gone so far that
there you go. Good luck.
Is that okay? Sure, of course. But did I take it too far? I don't want to,
No. I just think it's I think it's a losing battle to fight it that way.
I think that when you get to a point where you have to make patriotism a protected class, then you actually don't have a country. Right?
Well, that's where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah, just accept it and just don't play along.
Right.
Just refuse your consent, right? The consent of the governed has been withdrawn.
Well, it's a bad place. And, so I did have a conversation, and please, if you go to my YouTube, Harry Bacharach, one word there, I recorded a conversation with a legislative liaison for Governor Mike DeWine, who's a Republican and has this mask mandate and has crippled all of our small businesses. Okay. And I talked to this guy for a good 18 minutes about the mask mandate and how I think it's bullshit. And we talked a little bit about the voting machines. And I said, if you can't see the coding programmable level inside the machines and where they're assembled and from start to finish, nuts to bolts, we can't be confident in the security of them. And that happens to be the case. There's proprietary information in there. And I know for a fact that people can switch numbers inside the machines and we'll never see it or never know. And so we shouldn't certify elections. And then we went back into the mask debate. And I said, what if I'm healthy? Do I still have to wear a mask? And he goes, what if you're healthy? What do you mean? I said, well, what if I'm healthy? Why would I have to wear a mask if I'm healthy? And he said, well, I'm healthy and I wear a mask and I got the coronavirus. I went to the grocery store. I think I got it there, but I said, what? You wear a mask and you got the coronavirus? I said, you lost, dude. You lost your argument right there. You wear the mask and you get the coronavirus. That's, I'm sorry. I know it's not like, and I don't wear it and I don't get it. And I think it's all bullshit anyways, is ultimately my point. And I swore at him a little bit and I hung up. But I'm fed up, man. I'm fed up with it. What can I say?
I think we all are. I mean, the question is, what do you do? So I'm going to go to DC on the 6th, and I'm going to see what Trump has planned. And if it turns out to be a big nothing burger, then, at that point, my confirmation bias is that we don't actually have the United States is Santa Claus. Right. And so I want to go talk to my parents at that point.
Oh, it's Santa Claus. And Linda, I just wrote it again in the YouTube. It's stereo, as in your car stereo.
Right.
So, and then our website is therealityos.com. And whatever.
And you can follow Tracy and me on stereo. So that when we talk to someone, I'll try not to talk to random people anymore. That was, if you listen to my random conversation, the guy he was a lovely guy. He was fine. Yeah. But I didn't know I was going to start having a conversation with him when I clicked the button. And so so basically on stereo, there's two ways to start a conversation. One is you can schedule a conversation, which is
what Peter and I did,
which is what we did the first time. So I put in Tracy's thing and then I fired it up and then it was Tracy and me, on the app. But one of the things that Tracy noticed is that you could add stream keys for Twitch and YouTube, I think. And so you can actually live stream the thing out on Twitch and YouTube at the same time that you're doing it on the app. So I was trying to figure out how to do that. And in the application that we're using right now to make this video, it's called StreamYard. And in order to start the stream, you hit a button that says go live, but then you're not actually really live until you hit another button that says go live. It's kind of like, do you want to delete this? Do you really want to delete this? So I wasn't sure when I hit the go live button on stereo what was going to happen. I thought it would open up a window because I thought I'd be able to put in the stream keys for YouTube and Twitch. But instead, it just dropped me into a conversation with somebody that I didn't know. And and so if I seem very awkward the first minute or two of that conversation, that's why.
Well, I have it up. I'm going to just screen share with everybody so you can see it. So this is my iPad. And so that's what it looks like, that little microphone thing.
Right.
And then when you're in here, you see these two people talking. You just get randomly thrown into a conversation. And so you can see people have made themselves interesting little avatars. But there's me. And then if you go to my profile, see, I can change my hue there. But if I scroll down, you can see the one little episode that Peter and I did. And you can listen to it again if you want to. And I can go into it. And that's what it looks like. Little cartoon me talking to little cartoon Peter. I click on Peter's cartoon. There's cartoon Peter. And there's his rando conversations. Peter did chastise somebody for wearing a mask on their avatar.
Good for you.
I don't even remember chastising them.
I think it was the guy that I thought he was trolling us and that at first, and then I realized, no, he's just really stupid.
No, that's the Simon kid.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, whatever. I couldn't tell who was talking to us. And, but Peter was like, why do you have a mask and a cartoon character? Like, what are you doing, dude?
Well, you've seen the video of the people that are in a waiting room and everybody stands up at a ding or a buzzer or something. And so, the person who is the guinea pig, or the test subject, eventually just starts standing up with these people because they don't know. It's just this herd mentality. And so that is ultimately why people are wearing these stupid masks. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Avatar masks.
Last time I was talking to Tracy about driving down Los Angeles Boulevard in Los Angeles, and there's some guy who's got an ad saying, hang in there, Los Angeles. And it's an ad for, I think he's one of these ambulance chasing lawyers, and he's got a mask on. And I'm thinking,
since they haven't decided about how they're going to deal with liability and businesses and COVID and all that stuff, shouldn't that guy be discouraging mask wearing? Be like, hey, Los Angeles, run around without a mask and go to every place that's open. Get sick. Let's sue them.
You'd think that there's like hundreds of thousands of people who are thinking exactly the same way Harry is thinking right now, who would all kick in $25 on a GoFundMe to file a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit.
But what good does it do?
Well, I saw flash mob of maskless people go through a Target on the internet the other day, like in Arizona or something. So that's kind of what it might take, is just like.
Well, I honestly think, and first of all, to answer Deborah's question really quickly, I don't think that they're wearing them on soap operas, but I can tell you that I have a friend that's a makeup artist, and I follow her on Instagram. She has to wear the full face shield, but she's back at work, at least, making all kinds.
I was in CVS last night, and somebody with a mask on filled a shopping cart filled with merchandise and walked out the door. And when the alarms went off, the 17-year-old kid that was standing by the cash register next to the door said, "Did you check out?" And the person pointed to the other employee and said, "I checked out with her." And then they just walked out of the store and they wandered off with this shopping cart full of merchandise. And it occurred to me that the masks made it okay because there's no way to identify who they are. Right. They had a hoodie on and a mask. It was like, okay, that's perfect.
No, I think personally, I think the things that will end these lockdowns are the protests like you're talking about going on, the business owners that are now speaking up and raising money. And I don't know if you've seen it, but Dave Portnoy and the guys at Barstool started, it's called the Barstool Fund, where they're finding small businesses that have kept people on the payroll, and they're saying, we're going to help pay your payroll until this is over. And the last I checked was this morning, they've raised $7.3 million on that. Well, and it's really lovely because they put a little vignette about every business they're saving. Dave is calling at each one of the people individually to tell them that they're getting this money. And so it came across, I had seen it because I gave them money last week. I'm like, this is actually a worthy cause to give money to when the government's handing out, $600 maybe of your own money back to you. And you're supposed to say thank you after months. Where can you give money that's actually going to get to people that need it? And that came across my radar. But then this morning I was checking Ground News and the Blind Spot feed to see what the left wasn't talking about. And the left is not talking about the fact that Barstool Sports has raised $7 million. And I'm like, how is this not a story? This is feel good, Christmas timey, helping small businesses survive. You've got videos of these people crying, talking about how they can keep their employees on their payroll and save this business that's been around for, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. No interest whatsoever. Not a news story.
My friend Pardis was live streaming yesterday from a restaurant in Burbank that is going against all of the mandates, and they are staying open. And the restaurant was packed. And I thought, tomorrow, Monday, I'm going to jump in my car and drive to Burbank to go sit in a damn restaurant.
Yeah,
and order food.
We got to throw the Defy design up, Peter, in the store. And start getting Defiant stickers. I'd like this I would wear a mask that said Defy on it just because I think it's such a pattern interruption for people.
Okay.
To see you wear it with a mask that says Defy.
Except that isn't that kind of a cross message because you're not really defying.
But it confuses people, right? Wouldn't you stop and look and be like, why is that chick saying Defy it while she's wearing it? What the hell's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. You could do that. I don't think I would.
I'm not wearing a mask.
The only time I wear a mask is when I am required to in order to enter a building because they're going to call the police if I don't. And
you know what? There's still not a law that prevents you. So here's another Peggy Hall, I believe is the woman's name, and she talks about common space law, and she breaks it down, and you can't be discriminated against.
Right. But good luck. I'm just saying, I don't have any faith in that system. There have been several Supreme Court justices across the country in the state Supreme Courts that have ruled against the governors and nothing has changed.
Right. In California, I think Gavin Newsom got body slammed and nothing changed.
In Pennsylvania, Wolf got body slammed, nothing changed. I think something like the reason that I don't think Portnoy's thing is getting any coverage is because it shames politicians. And it also shows that private charity is way more effective than public charity, than the government giving out handouts.
My problem here in Cleveland is that it's so blue that the restaurant owners are just I mean, they were doing it. They were closing down voluntarily. Okay, at one point, and it's just like you will all be out of business if you don't stand up for yourselves. And band together. And if they close you all down, see if this, is the city going to come and back you? Because otherwise, there'll be no more tax revenue from these businesses. And
well,
frankly,
that's what I'm holding out for is the tax revolt.
Yeah, April. Well, if anybody pays taxes in April, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, but the payroll tax is how they get you. Thank you, Morgan Freeman, Mr. Free Market. He's the reason that we have the payroll tax.
Can you go give me more
the actor
on that? I don't know.
Morgan Freeman, Milton Friedman.
Milton.
Sorry,
I was going to say Morgan Freeman.
Did I say Morgan?
Did
I say Morgan?
In a world.
In a world where we can't print enough money to fund the war effort, we should just take it directly out of people's paychecks.
Right.
That's how that came to be.
In a world where we spend money that we don't have, you have to ask the question, why collect taxes at all?
Yeah. And that was in response to this. Yes. I think that still works, that you can't wear a mask if you're carrying.
Should I put on? Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Okay.
But are you allowed to carry in LA?
You're not allowed to carry in LA. You're not allowed to carry in California, most of California.
Not even open carry.
Not even open. No, California's open carry and concealed carry are both illegal.
It's no carry for you.
Yeah, it's no carry for you. It's
wow.
It's ridiculous. All of the shooters though who shoot people in California, they're all carrying.
It's kind of like they don't care about laws.
Okay, the job is done. The consumers are scared, or at least a critical mass of them. The velocity of money is too slow now. The game is over. That's
it could very well be.
Could very well be. Bitcoin has been blowing up, but I continue to contend that is all of the graft going through the illegal money system, and that March or April that it's going to come back down again. So
it's potentially true. I don't know. Just one last thought. I'll send it to everybody or post it in the thing, but George Gammon makes whiteboard videos kind of breaking down monetary policy stuff, investment stuff, making it digestible for everybody. And he put out a video maybe 2-3 days ago talking about how the Chinese might they're seriously thinking about digital yuan. And he made the case that why that could just take over the dollar in a heartbeat because they have their footprints in Africa and in Latin America. And if they do it via an app and the central bank can just push money out to you via an app, becomes pretty easy to be like, yeah, why would I have dollars? I don't know. And you live in some African nation where you have inflation through the roof, so your money's not worth anything. You don't want that. Are you going to go dollars? Or are you going to go digital yuan that just shows up in your little magic app?
Communism.
It's terrifying. It's just like, okay. How do
they can just cut you off whenever they dislike your social credit score.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about cryptocurrency. I know that, I've got a lot of friends, Max Geyser and Jay Dyer, and they're very bullish on it. My issue for it is that it runs on the internet. And the internet isn't controlled by people want to sell it as this democracy, this like magical technical democracy, and it's anything but. It's a controlled medium. And the day that that China or the United States decides that they're going to block port 8333, which is the mining port for all Bitcoin miners, Bitcoin becomes marginalized. And yeah, you could change it to different port numbers and stuff, but at that point, it becomes a whack-a-mole situation between governments and the Bitcoin miners, and the utility of it drops by 99%. So saying Bitcoin is only pumping up because the US dollar is getting printed. Yeah, I don't know that that's true. Again, if you follow like Whale Alert or one of those sites that tracks all of the Bitcoin transactions, there seems to, I mean, the 2017 bubble seems to be correlated with a lot of the dirty tricks that were going on around the world. It seemed to be some kind of a reaction to Donald Trump's canceling the Iran deal, and the current bubble to me is correlated to all of the shenanigans that's going on behind the scenes as far as election fraud and all of the people that need to be paid off in order to make this agenda go forward.
Well, I think it's a matter of calling your senators this coming week is going to be pretty important. You're right.
Yeah, USD Tether. Yeah,
potentially calling your senators matters.
Yeah, potentially. And I understand that. I understand the Tether argument also, but I think I do. But again, to me, cryptocurrency is, you got to look at who gets the most utility out of it at the moment. And the people who get the most utility out of it are people who are paying for things who don't want to be going through the SWIFT system. And when you look at the number of multi-million-dollar wallet transactions that are going on lately, it's.
Well, I mean, I guess there is an argument to be made that since the Fed is pumping out all this money, where's it going? Are the banks turning around and dumping it into Bitcoin to run it up? Who knows? I mean, there could be some of that going on.
Could be. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, we got to wrap it up.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'll put links to everything that we talked about in the show notes on YouTube and BitChute and DLive and everywhere it goes. And then also on therealityos.com. You're taking more questions.
No, I'm just going to.
I desperately need to use the restroom.
Okay, go.
Okay.
All right,
goodbye.
Goodbye,
everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.